All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Planning Commission meeting for Essex, Town of Essex. This is January 25th, 2024. It's been a few weeks since we've been here in this room, so it's new year, new night. Same old night, sorry.
Shoes here.
Shoes here.
Here's his calling card.
Yep.
The fresca.
Yep. Okay, so I don't see any call for additions or changes to the agenda this evening. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then I guess we're going to play by the rules a little bit. I'm going to like motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll second that.
Too late. Motion by Georgia, seconded by Shu. All those in favor of accepting the agenda as presented?
Aye.
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 John Mangan?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. So next item on our agenda at this stage is public comment. Before I do that, I would just like to ask anybody who is going to be offering any comment to us this evening on any of these items to please stand, raise your right hand, and we'll swear you in for the night. Do you swear that any testimony you're going to present this evening is truthful to the best of your abilities? This is the time. Just an I do will suffice. Online? Ken, I know you had your hand up. Did you want to give a verbal approval agreement?
I'm not planning on giving any testimony, but I'll certainly swear to tell the truth.
Okay, I just saw your hand, didn't want to ignore you. Okay, with that, I'm going to open the floor for public comments. Please be waiting to you are recognized by me before you offer anything, and let's keep it to items that are not on the agenda, and things that are on the agenda we'll have opportunity to discuss when we come to them. So, with that, is there anyone that would like to make a comment? Sir, he was in the room first, Ken.
No,
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Ned Robinson. I'm the owner of the Great Escape in Richmond, Vermont. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me tonight. I have written my comments and I have very brief. The reason for my comments today is to add kennel to the RPD-1 uses zoning area, specifically to allow for a second location to be built in the new Boston Court development road. There are 4 warehouse spaces that are being constructed there and are open or pre-designed before construction. So the opportunity from the ground up is really important to me. Currently, it's not zoned for that use. Essex Vet is. A quick introduction: I bought the Great Escape in May last year after spending years as a wife and I are west for Vermont, and not carpetbaggers from out of state. We live here and work together, involved in the business. Have 10 employees right now, more in the summer, about 50. Looking to be full at the second location. Retain our employees in the chain of ownership. Our charitable donations are about $1,000. The reason for this site, why it's so important for us, there's an opportunity for use, which is business. We don't require a loading dock, so that dog space. There's space around it. Beautiful pine trees that can be preserved. It's at the warehouse space is at the end of that road. Won't have any truck traffic to bother the dogs and buddy to bother. It's a growing community here in Essex and Williston. People are moving here and going back to work. Essex does need more daycare options, dog daycare options. Originally, when we started this project, my wife and I were this from increase the capacity in the area. Instead, we bought the Great Escape in Richmond. Didn't get to it. So capacity in the area has decreased, and it's a needed service. We can also provide jobs and tax revenue. Our jobs pay $20 an hour as a minimum and up. We have paid time off, other benefits, soon to offer healthcare, 401k, things like that. We have 401k already, and we have career and part-time, short-term opportunities available for people. Last comment: this is the right location for the area for our business as well. There's nothing like this in the immediate area here in Essex. Essex Vet just down the road, like I mentioned, and there's just lots of daily traffic on Highway 15 going by in and out of Burlington every day. I know that a lot of people live in Jericho, Underhill, commute to that area. For us, it's an opportunity to kind of split our client base in half, kind of a Waterbury, Richmond side of things, and then more of a Burlington side of things. So there is a self-interest there, obviously, but I think that it's also in the best interest of the community. So thank you for your time. I'll leave some copies of my notes with you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sharon or Catherine, just more precisely, where exactly is he proposing?
So,
I'm not sure the term that he'd use.
Yeah, it's across the street off Allen Martin Drive. It's, so when you come off Sand Hill Road.
Yep.
and Basically, you're
That,
looking
that
at
first
the
one
lot.
right there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Next to that, next to.
Right,
Yep, just
Okay.
over there.
up from.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin, I didn't, you might have said this, but, did you mention public comment right now? Well,
Oh, I did not. Thank you. I completely forgot about that. So this is also the opportunity, is, thank you, Sharon, to provide comments, both public and from the planning commission, for items, for the consent agenda item, which is a boundary line adjustment between two lots on West Sleepy Hollow Road. So with that, I would also ask for comments again.
Thank you.
You're right there, Paula. Actually, you're here first, so if you want to move up by Catherine to see the screen better, you're welcome to. We have an open seat tonight, so. Yep. Yes, at this point, Paula, you are a voting member, yes. Okay, back to the thing. Ken, your hand is up, please.
Thank you. Let me take it down. There we go. So I just wanted to bring to the to your attention and to anybody else who's interested attention that H518, which is the bill in the House of Representatives for our charter change, has passed the House and is now in the Senate. It contains the DRB specification, and currently the date specified is still January the 1st, 2025. So I would like to encourage the planning commission, if it wants to be involved in the transition, which I would think it would be, maybe come up with a plan for how to transition to the DRB. Something as simple as suggesting that the select board appoint the DRB, let's say by July 1st, so they could start on July 1st, set a cutoff after which any applications going to the zoning board or to the planning commission start going to the I'm sorry, I thought I had the floor.
You do.
Apologies, I was a bit late again. It's my fault.
Keep talking, please.
All right.
So, suggest that the DRB constitute itself, have its first organizational meeting in July, like all other commissions and committees, set a cutoff date, after which any applications that would have gone to the zoning board or the planning commission instead go to the DRB. That would give you folks some 6 months to close up any applications in the manner that they started. And the DRB has plenty of time for you to participate, I would hope participate in the training. I assume some of you folks would probably be on the DRB, so that might not be even very necessary. But just having a good plan in place so that by January 1st, 2025, the DRB is up and running and ready to go. That's it. Thanks.
I want to pull them from the tape, but I'd like to,
I'd be
Have your
happy to send
comments.
something in if you
All right.
prefer.
that would be great. Thanks, Ken. Is there anyone else that would like to offer comment this evening on this includes the planning commissioners, on the consent agenda or any of the other items that's not on the agenda this evening? Hearing none. We're going to move on to the consent agenda item. We had no discussion points, so I would look for a motion to approve or deny the consent agenda.
It does look like we have our
In discussions, we'll invite you, we'll be able to participate in discussions, but because we have the 7, you will be a non-voting member tonight. Thank you, Paula. So I'd like a motion for the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Moved by Shu, seconded by Trevor. Any additional discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Onward. Next item we have is business items. Capital plan, 2024 Planning Commission work plan, and then, minutes. It's written as approval of the November 9th and November 16th minutes. Okay. Who's going to be discussing with us the capital plan?
Oh, a bunch of us.
No. Okay, you have 2 minutes each.
All right, so I am actually going to start us off. So the 4 of us are part of the capital budget and plan. What are we called? Team? No, working group, whatever. So we've been meeting for the year to talk about the capital budget. So I thought it would be a great thing to have everybody here. So I think normally it's been the Director of Public Works that has come and discussed the capital budget, but there is a lot more to works items. And also keep in mind too, it's a 5-year plan. So we have much more specifics for a current fiscal year than we would 5 years road from now. But there are projects that you'll see in the plan, going out 5 years. And the reason why we're having this discussion is that as a state statute allows the planning commission, actually says that a planning commission should have the opportunity to plan in the capital budget. And we're allowed to have a capital budget and town plan. So the town plan, really should be part of the guiding document for how the town is spending its money, especially capital. And in your packet, I included the word clouds from the town plan, just as a way to remember what we heard from the public. Really what our town plan is based on, what we heard from the public about what they want to see in our town, how they want to see us grow or not grow, and just keeping that in mind. So that is sort of my little spiel. I'm going to turn it over to, I think, mostly Dan at this point to talk through more of the details.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for taking the time this evening. I can walk you through the capital plan a little bit, especially for fiscal year 25. There's, a lot of kind of larger subgroups, buildings, highways, vehicles, equipment, park facilities, stormwater projects, a wide variety of things that happen in a capital plan like this.
Can I interrupt just for one moment? I apologize, but I've never met you.
Sorry.
So
I'm Dan Roy. I'm the finance director.
okay, thanks, Dan.
My apologies.
Sorry, I should have introduced
And
everybody.
you need to speak up because I can barely.
Okay. I can do that as well. Sorry.
I don't have a problem, so.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Not with you.
So as of the end of fiscal year 24, we're anticipating overall for our capital projects fund a balance of $3 million. Going forward with that, our fiscal year 25 revenues are going to be about $484,000 generated from capital tax, $470,000 of transfers from the operating budget, and then there's a line for about $1.6 million of grants and interest revenue and other things like that. The grant revenue item is connected to the Church of Latter-day Saints pond conversion project. So that's really is a big impact on this overall budget for fiscal year 25. The fiscal year 25 estimated spending is almost $3 million, most of which, about 1.7 million, is that project which I just mentioned, which is offset to a great degree by the grant revenue. The ending point for that fiscal year 25 capital projects fund balance is 2.85 million. So combining all the combined revenues and netting against the expenses, there's a difference of about $135,000 that the capital projects funds would be reduced by during the course of fiscal year 25. Obviously, there's a lot of spending in other areas, primarily replacing vehicles and equipment for fire department, public works, things like that, continuing with payments on that for vehicles that we own that are on multiple year payment plans, things of that nature. But the biggest item in there is the stormwater project for the pond conversion. To expand the look to fiscal year 26 through 29, we take a preliminary look at the new town municipal complex, costing out possible road additions and a fire department building as well. These are all very preliminary, early estimates of costs. For fiscal year 26 through 29, we're trying to show them as kind of in and out, which is certainly an accelerated plan to have such big projects occur, but we wanted to try and show those amounts netting out and be able to analyze other aspects of the budget long term without those elements kind of clouding up that picture. Just to kind of continue with fiscal year 26 through 29, we're still expecting to use a 3-cent tax rate for capital tax revenue. The budget here still reflects $470,000 of operating transfers, which has been a legacy number from the most recent fiscal years. Most of that number is made up of supporting our vehicles and equipment expenses, as I mentioned, for fire and public works. On an annual basis overall, we expect to generate 1.15 million of revenues toward the capital project plan. And with the impending reappraisal, that we know there's going to be a change in how the capital tax is, how much it generates. And, we'll have to wait and see what kind of effect that has on the overall budget long term for fiscal year 26 and 29 after that reappraisal work is done for the town. So that's kind of a quick synopsis of, where short term and long term kind of lie. I don't know if you have any questions based off of that.
And I can also project thing about
Without opening documents and getting into looking for details and so forth, I'm just curious where or what, other than the potential municipal offices and fire station, what, if any, capital might be targeted towards the ETC area? Because I know we've talked about needing different things before any of that can really go. Do we have any of that infrastructure on the target list?
Want to talk about water sewer lines, Aaron?
I can do that. We just got bids in. We will be constructing a 12-inch main from Billy Butler, which would be the northwesterly side of 15, from Billy Butler all the way to Essex Way. We're looking for that project to begin, break ground, probably late April, early May. This will provide that 12-inch water line between those two roads along that side, providing the additional flows that we will need in that area to accommodate the growth and the height of growth that the density that we want in that area. As of right now, We do have some sewer updates and upgrades that we are doing in the area that will need to take place as part of any build out there. We do not have any scoping or plan as of yet to look at sewering that new portion of the town center that we're looking to have developed in the future, but it's on the radar. I think the next step we're going to be looking at will be looking at the allocation. That's the finite element up there, and that's going to definitely drive what takes place not only in the town center but the rest of the sewer core. That will be a priority moving forward in the future.
Okay. Because that will sort of help guide, when we can dig into, really making the changes that we're looking for in the town center area. It's the primary enablers. What about Pioneer Drive area and stuff like that? Has that been mitigated? I may be missing projects here and so forth, but we've had an ongoing issue for a decade or two with Pioneer Drive, and I may miss something. We've got the folks that are not Pioneer Drive. Pinecrest. We had the development going in out there, and there's been a lot, challenges along that. Is that infrastructure and stuff at a solid point?
Yes. I believe you're talking about the new pump station that went in with the new congregate housing.
Okay.
Yes. So if you all remember, we had the developer pay for and install a gravity manhole out towards the edge of our right of way, as deep as he possibly could, in order to facilitate picking up as much of the Pinecrest Painesville area with gravity sewer in the future. We do have old plans that could be dusted off and re-looked at to come up with a sewering project in there, but again, that would definitely be based off of board approval and the need of the residents.
I'm just trying to dust off the big hot topics from the last few years. It's awful dusty, so I'm gonna stop.
One other thing related to somewhat the ETC next area, but I think it's really for the whole town. We have a pretty old bike and pedestrian plan that's also shared with the city, and so we're hoping through the Regional Planning Commission to do a update or rewrite of that, and that will give us a better idea of priority sidewalks, trails that we want to fund it. I think we'd have the capital after we. So that'll be a public process that. And hopefully that would be starting this.
Are there any, I'm going to push back to your direction a little bit. Are there any of the projects that you went through a general outline, but are there any of the projects you specifically want to put on our radar that maybe didn't start with us or start with development? Is there anything that you feel is something we have to accommodate in planning initiatives and development reviews and so forth, just so that we're aware?
I'd say the town, the town center is going to be an important one, and it's, the land that the town acquired, 80 and 90 Upper Main Street. It's obviously the part of the goal there is the municipal facilities, town offices, fire station, potentially library, community space, recreation space, stuff like that. But it's our idea is that it's more than that. It's really kind of the hub for a town center. It's going to facilitate development up there, help make it a vibrant place. So I think as you get into the ETC Next plan and look at the zoning that ETC Next recommends, that's going to be instrumental in what can happen on that property, not just the municipal side of things, but also any other private development, other private partnerships, and getting into the planning about what are some of the goals in the town plan that the community wants around density of homes, commercial space, stuff like that. How do you tie that into recreation space, whether it's those sidewalks that connect elsewhere, trails that lead up to Indian Brook, trails just on that property, green space. I think that's going to be central to the whole bigger town center area developing and becoming really the hub for the community. Other than that, I think, sidewalks. Catherine mentioned the bike ped plan and perhaps an update there, but sidewalks, roads. A lot of the capital that we have now is maintaining, replacing heavy equipment, maintaining roads. The water sewers, separate item, but a lot of what you see in here is what we have already. Some of that town center stuff is going to be, some of the sidewalks and trails. That's going to be what's next.
Oh, you had a question?
Just if you have in the thought process what you would do with the existing facilities that you.
So for this building, the city of Essex Junction has a right of first refusal on it if we do go to sell it. We haven't, we've talked very high level about how do we fund new facilities, what happens with these facilities. Best guess at this point is we'd probably look to sell some of the stuff that we would be leaving. Whether that holds up, I mean, it's, people have mentioned, should we lease it out, keep a revenue source in there? That's another
I was
responsibility
thinking
of landlording, and
I was thinking more of things like the absolute chairman, fire department, which there it makes a statement.
the library I think is it's a beautiful building. I think that would warrant more conversation about if and when that moves or the library moves, what happens to that building. We have given some thought to the fire station. Aaron, do you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, if fire does have a new facility elsewhere and want to construct it in our property there at 8090, obviously right next door to our buildings there. The likely move would be to expand some of our operations into that building and repurpose it, both for public works admin offices. Things are getting pretty tight over in our little white building there on Essex Greens. So.
The old library.
Yeah, the old library. And then use some of the bays as for our trucks and or for mechanics bay.
Basically stay intact.
Correct.
I'm going to date myself. Can we put the ice rink back?
Zach?
Can we put the skating rink back?
Oh yeah, Bob said that there were, Bob Whitten, our old water sewer foreman who just retired there, said there was a skating rink.
It was right immediately to the left of the fire station as you're looking at them.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Anyways,
Rink down on Foster Road if you want to skate. Down at the Foster Road has a couple of rinks on them.
that was always easy to walk over to. Okay, any other commissioners' questions? Josh? John?
I'm good.
No, I don't have any questions either.
Okay. All right.
So I have one question for you.
Yes.
Thinking ahead to next year's planning for the capital plan and budget, is there any way that you would want to be involved more or receive updates more?
I would actually suggest we put that on our discussion points for the planning commission, the revised planning commission duties, to find out if that would be more appropriate.
Okay.
I think if there is an opportunity to focus, speaking off the cuff here, if there's an ability to be somewhat synchronistic with the capital projects, what we're looking to do, we get the capital, we do the zoning, or we do the zoning and get the capital, whatever needs to come first. But it just seems like that would be more of an opportunity to be more in sync and maybe get things a little more efficiently pushed through. Trevor?
Well, I just have the question. So there's this fund right now with $3 million in it, and it's gradually going to be spent down by the 2029. How do you anticipate replenishing that in the
future?
Yeah, so, I mean, the immediate answers are addressing the capital tax rate when reappraisal happens. So that's kind of a stone that's left unturned at this point. And obviously, the reappraisal could have, a significant impact on the revenue line there. There is always the option of incorporating operating transfers from the regular fiscal year budgets. It's not really an avenue I would like to increase because I think it's better to have them as two distinct pools. So, those are kind of the two main drivers. Obviously, we're trying to keep some degree of interest revenue in there. And then often with a lot of the public works programs, we try and find grant or loan forgiveness opportunities wherever we can as well. So those are the immediate channels to try and
I see.
help keep us, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
If I can elaborate on that, we have presented the select board with this information the past couple of years. When we lost the Essex Junction tax base last year, that was about 41% of our tax base. So we presented a proposed increase to the capital tax. The select board pursued going from 2 cents up to 3 cents. This is where it's at now. The voters were very supportive of that. We've talked about increasing more than that, but as Dan said, the idea is to wait to see what happens with the reappraisal. Dan mentioned the revenue side of things, just to give him some credit. Started investing some more of the town's money in some higher yielding accounts. So that's generating quite a bit more interest than we ever have in the recent past. Impact fees is another one. The fire department's doing an impact fee study, so that might help generate some revenue on the fire side of things. That's always an option. Recreation has impact fees that might be due for an update.
Okay. We good? You already had your one, Paula. Go ahead.
Is there do you have a target date in mind for establishing concept?
As far as building facilities,
Yeah.
not really. I think that's Catherine and I were just talking about this afternoon. We're getting ready to kind of spend this next year doing a lot of planning work and figuring out what can go up there. Trying to put some cost estimates, better cost estimates to things. We already have some cost estimates, but then figuring out, how do we pay for those things? Catherine, if you want to speak more to the planning process, by all means.
No, I think you hard to say. I think we need to do good planning first. At some point, needs probably zoning change, but with ET. I think we need to have a discussion on how quickly do people want to see it, too. Haven't really had a lot of parcels with the hearing, like, let's do this today, or wait, let's take some time and think this through slowly. Then I think it would be great to do it sooner rather than later. For sure. We don't really.
What goes there would impact what is determined the best use or between that 280.
Perhaps.
So the plan. Yeah, and that's part of the ET.
Overview.
Yeah, with any definitely can see that side of the road having interconnected properties. So out onto
Georgia? Daniel? Nope. You?
I'm good.
I think we're good. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all.
Good to see you.
Bring snacks next time.
Forgot about that.
All right, let's roll into our 2024 Work plan.
All right. So I will pull this up on the screen, but I do have a couple extra copies if people would like to see it. A little bit. Okay, so flag here. And this is very small. So this was my stab at just thinking about what I see in the future plate, in the community development plate as well. And some of this was information or things that we had that were on the work plan last year, and the work plan included more than just 1 year, so there was kind of an overlap with multiple years. So that's some of it is why. And I think looking at what I have up here, the first thing is the town plan update. Really, the heavy lifting is done with that, so that doesn't really need to probably take a whole lot of time. But the next thing is that the voters will get their chance to weigh in on it on town meeting day. So, I think we could consider how to get the word out about the town plan and supporting the town plan, and that's worth a discussion, at least at part of the planning commission. And there's not that much time before town meeting either.
Do we know where town meeting's going to be?
Town meeting is at the middle school.
Okay.
And town meeting is actually really on Tuesday, which is it's all by Australian ballot this year. So there are no floor votes, nothing's being voted on that Monday night. It's an informational meeting that they're having we're having an open house format before, where there'll be tables, so we could set up a planning commission community development table there, and just to let people see the town plan.
Is this on the Monday?
The Monday before.
And will that be at the middle school?
That's at the middle school as well. I think we're booked at the middle school for the next, I don't know how many years, however many years. So then the second thing, speaking of what Ken Signorello brought up, the DRB transition, that really does need to be at the forefront of everything. And whether or not it's going to take, I have it listed here, taking the whole year. Whether or not it will take the whole year, I don't know. But it's something to get started on right away and figure that out. I already have been doing a little bit of work on that, reaching out to some folks who have had experience doing a transition, including the city. They recently transitioned over to DRB, so I have a meeting with Regina Mahoney, their city manager, this week to talk about it. Talked to the Regional Planning Commission. Dusty and I have done some talking as well, and really wanting to pull in the zoning board into those discussions, so it's not just the planning talking about it. So it's important to have that involved. So we've had a brief conversations with their chair, Nick Martin. Need to have more discussions with them and try to solidify a plan, including the zoning board.
I'd like to maybe take that, if the commission agrees, at least as a starting point, for us to come up with not necessarily a full draft, but a draft of the way we might go about this. Mm-hmm. And to recognize Ken's points from earlier, this is really all on our discussion plate already. So like to be able to bring back to this commission and the zoning board as much as they're able to join us, and maybe even do it in a group session, a combined workshop to present this so that we can then present our thoughts and, you know, maybe some guidance up to the select board. Because I believe that's where the actual decision has to come from.
Right. And they are looking to you all in the zoning board and staff, you know, to make the recommendation how to go about this too. You know, my understanding is that, you know, the final decision, like you said, is theirs, but they're looking for recommendations and guidance to go about it.
So what's going to happen? Will the planning and zoning go out of existence and the DRB?
Half of that's true. So the planning commission stays, but the zoning board goes away. And the development review board takes the place of the zoning board, but also takes the development review side of the planning commission's job. So any sort of, you know, site plans or subdivisions with waivers, all of that would go to the DRB.
Right.
Yeah. So the planning commission would do just plan.
To that, I guess this will be a part of the workshop or discussion. With this body being a combined, you know, group for the planning commission right now, is there talk of, you know, folks transitioning to the DRB, or, you know, is there opportunity for discussion about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's got to be a big part of the discussion.
And we don't have a roadmap.
Not yet.
You know, we don't have a roadmap. We don't have an expectation that, you know, I would like to think that anybody who's currently serving a role on the zoning or planning would have the opportunity
To choose?
to choose to continue, I guess would be the way to continue in the capacity that they're most interested in. But then that's, I think, part of the recommendation that we have to make to the select board, or we ought to make to the select board. I don't think we have to, but I think that's in our best interest.
Agreed.
Well, and typically the planning commission in that framework deals more with long-term planning.
Legislative and judicial.
Right.
Yeah, continue to do zoning updates. The plan.
So, I mean, I think this is all, it will all be, my expectation is that this group, in conjunction with or collaboration with the zoning board, will come up with a proposal of what we feel the planning commission makeup, the DRB makeup, the duties, the expectations, the flow, so forth, should be or could be. And using contacts outside of this group, and just come up with a recommendation.
It would be both. DRB thoughts of what your person, our idea was after all, but that's a big.
Well, if not that, then how, right? How can that communication, because that
Well,
obviously.
staff, I think, will be part of that.
But that's been
But I agree. I think it's ideal to have overlap.
There's a significant amount of domain knowledge that currently exists that may or may not, you know, have a role in the oncoming reformation. So, yeah.
If I may, I think there are actually complications with having people volunteer on both, right? The point of splitting the DRB from the Planning Commission is to have a division of labor that doesn't put anyone in a position where they are making the plans and executing them at the same time, right? And so, like, it gets fuzzy. You know, one, maybe, sure, 2, 3. Where does that line get cut, and when does it become kind of redundant to, you know, or undermine the entire objective of dividing the groups anyway?
Well, and you
to
can have
some degree, the objective of division isn't clear. So, I mean, the objective right now is, may also have to be clarified, but the fact is that it will happen at this point with final legislative approval. It's a done deal. So now it's what are the two groups responsible for? Where's the division of responsibilities? And I mean, I'm not sure I quite agree with the fact that a person can't wear both hats, because we do that now. We've been doing it going back from now to whenever this began, and it's been successful. So I actually, on a slightly different note, I think the knowledge of how the rules that are developed are applied, I think, is key in developing the rules correctly, or revising the rules. You need to know the challenges with the application. So to me, there's a facet of this has got to be a communication path between the DRB and the Planning Commission for those items that work, those items that don't work. What do we need to focus on? What's going to drive the changes? Anyways.
Yeah.
So this is all the pieces. This is the discussion.
No, I understand. Yeah, and we're probably, if I continue, we'll just get into it, I think. So we're planning to have this discussion later and develop a
Absolutely.
draft. Okay, yeah. So I will withhold.
But in those
time
minds,
being.
as you're thinking this stuff through, don't lose these thoughts. I would encourage everybody, as these thoughts are coming up, to note them. Because they either somebody else may be thinking about them, or nobody maybe thought about them, and we should. So it's a new frontier for this community. There's a lot of neighboring communities. In fact, almost all neighboring communities have done this. So it's not a big unknown. It's just an unknown for this group.
Well, and a lot of communities have transitioned to separate boards or commissions primarily because of the ethical concerns, right? It may have been successful in Essex here. It has certainly been corrupted in other places and caused problems, right? When someone is in charge of making the plans and approving the plans, that is suspect to challenges.
Remember that the approval is through the select board.
Yeah.
So it's independent of this body, of these bodies. So I'm not, we won't argue the point. I mean, I see where you're going with it. But we need to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
We know where we need to be. We need to figure out what it is that the division of duties is. And it may be exactly that may be part of the reason for it, but I don't know that that's been communicated. It really is just do it.
I think what I've
And it may
heard
not
from
have
most people, and like in other towns, is that especially that having a planning commission freed up of the development review side allows for more planning.
Right.
And so that is a benefit.
I had not heard about questionable kinds of things going on so much as the division of labor and focus.
Yeah, I actually had a really great conversation with Meg Stoloff down in southern Vermont. She's with the BDCC, I believe, the Regional Development Corporation down there. And she was pointing out a variety of reasons why it's not particularly safe, or there are risks
Prone to
involved
problems.
with having them combined. And she's seen that firsthand. And we had a longer conversation about it and why it's challenging to keep them together.
Yeah,
So,
I don't.
Well, the if we want to say it's a good thing, the reason right now that it's the why is almost, it's not irrelevant, but it's almost irrelevant because the decision's been made.
yeah.
Now we need to figure out how to implement. So write all these, you get thoughts, questions, things we need to understand, write them down so we can bring them back and address them as a group. And then we just can have a good recommendation to the select board. The timing of it, the whole 9 yards, we can figure out what makes sense as a body, as two bodies, assuming we can get the zoning board to participate with us on this.
We already have one. Trevor's.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, you're going to be an advocate for this with the rest of the group.
Okay,
Okay.
happy to do it.
John or Josh, any thoughts, questions?
Not at the moment. I tend towards the school of thought that this was separated to give planning more time to do pure planning, but I'm open to the idea that maybe there were some issues that happened when they were combined. But yep, open-minded right now.
Yeah, I don't really, I mean, I don't know enough about this to ask any questions. I mean, tonight's the first night I even heard that it's happening, so is there a link to the state statute or something that we can read up on? Like, what are the requirements, so on and so forth?
Here,
That's
John,
some of the information we're trying to gather, and we can publish it as we get it.
Okay.
I'm sure you
At
folks.
this point, I don't know what I don't know, so I can't ask any questions.
here, I'll put the legislation in the comments here. You can see what bill we're talking about.
Okay, thank you.
And then I can also share the state statute links that explain the function of the planning commission,
Awesome.
and we should discuss that too as well.
The real short version is this isn't going to be something that's going to be delayed. Our efforts are going to be, they're going to have to be pretty constant, and we don't have that long of a window when we really get down to it.
Right, and I think
Yes?
You mentioned earlier, I mean, I know other neighboring towns have already done this, and I believe they did it pretty quick too, so I don't know how complicated it really needs to be necessarily.
I would agree. I think it's just a matter of, as you said, we don't know what we don't know yet. I think this is trying to get the effort to this is just trying an effort to get ourselves on a good starting platform.
Yep.
But I think we can try to approach this as simply as possible so that we don't overcomplicate it. I think that's a really good point.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, I have it blocked out for this whole year. It doesn't mean it's going to take us this whole year, but
We
gotta hit it at some point.
If we get it into workshops, we may actually have to entertain the idea of having, discussions outside of the normal planning commission cycle. And in which to allow for a zoning board. And maybe we use zoning board nights if they don't have active material to cover. But more to follow.
I want it.
Okay, so let's move on to the next item if we're good, Catherine, or do you want more of?
Yeah, well, there are several other things on here. There's the bylaw modernization grant is still going on, and that's with the Regional Planning Commission and looking at increasing density for housing outside of the ETC next year. Kind of been a slow process, so there's really not a whole lot going on right now. Next week, the Regional Planning Commission is meeting with Aaron and Ann to talk about sewer capacity. It's kind of, they've stalled a bit, needing to understand more about potential limitations. So that will be coming back just, at some point for some review and well, at least if it's not review, it would at least be informational.
Some kind of a change to try to take the teeth out of Act 250 out there somewhere.
That is, yeah, with the state right now in the legislature. Yep. And from what I've heard, some of that is really in more of our designated areas that in the state. So if there's the village center or Newtown Center, or towns that have robust zoning, maybe. So I don't know where it's going to end up. But the thought is that in those areas where there has been a lot of planning, there's a lot of good zoning, it's duplicative. Yeah. So we'll see. Won't know what's coming down the pike until probably like May or.
Yeah, wasn't it? It was a push from the federal government, wasn't it? Push the states all across the U.S. to try to loosen up those rules.
Mm-hmm. Particularly for housing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry.
Yep. No, you're right. So I have in here. This is actually I added it new since what I provided for you in your packets, but we need to do a zoning update related to the DRB change, and that's not going to be like a really heavy lift on that. But right now, the zoning talks and the subdivision talk about the roles of the zoning board, the roles of the planning commission, who does what. So just cleaning that up. I had a thought at the same time of unifying our bylaws, so putting the subdivision and the zoning together into one. I think that would be easy. We've talked about that already. And then Act 47, which is the Housing Act, that the Home Act, it's called, that was passed last year. We need to really do a deeper dive and update our zoning. Thinking the three of those things could go in together.
What about in the we had talked about doing zoning changes more rapidly and more easily. What about if we're going to do anything like that, to look through and see if there are any low-hanging fruits? For example, the use that the gentleman talked about. I'm not talking that one specifically, but
That
something
kind of
like a
thing.
use or something like that. Are there things that we could bring in and do, small subset of zoning changes in addition to the things that we have to do? We're not just waiting and doing a big bucket at a certain
Sure.
point.
Sure, I think that's definitely worth discussion. I think another line item here is bigger zoning updates that we talked about, and I think the RPDI is one, PUD, those are big, so that maybe those don't get wrapped in, but maybe they do. I don't know.
I'm not looking to necessarily, but if we have opportunity, in separate distinct efforts, we're going to put some zoning changes through for X. Unless we're going to wait and combine and do one packet up to the select board, we're going to do them separately. Let's look for opportunity to knock off some low-hanging fruit, things that are of a like scale, so that if we're doing a number of small things, we can do maybe a few more small things to make it palatable.
Yep. Yeah, so my list there was just some things I threw in, knowing that we really have to do.
It would be nice if we could plan on, zoning changes every 6 months. And that's including getting it reviewed and getting it evaluated and put in front of the public and so forth. If that's not feasible, but if we're doing very small packets, I would think that would be a manageable bite even for the select board.
And then I think especially, when there is planning commission DRB, there'll be more opportunity to so I guess I skipped over the 8090 Upper Main Street site planning. So that's what Greg and I were talking about earlier. So we'll be hiring a consultant to help with that work. Really, that's going to be a big public engagement process, trying to figure out what's going to go on that site. So we know there's municipal facilities, but we don't know what they should look like, or do they all happen at once? Is it phased? There's other area on this site for other uses, so discussing what those uses would be. So housing or commercial uses. There's space for recreational areas, probably more in the back. It's wetlands, so you can't really develop that part, but it could be great for a boardwalk or around the wetlands or paths. So just engaging the public in that, and then like the planning commission to be a part of that at some scale. Talk that through with you, how you would want to be.
What form is the outreach going to take? Surveys, meetings?
Yes. I don't know, actually. I think we're working on the RFP, the request to go out for proposals, and part of it is tell us what you think is going to be a good process. So definitely needs to be, I think, in person, roll up your sleeves kind of work versus just a survey, in my mind. But I think surveys are good. So hopefully a combination of different ways. The other couple things on here is the official map, which is probably, I'm thinking, starting in the winter. Need to clarify that with the Regional Planning Commission, but the official map is part of a state designation for town center. It's a requirement, and we did not get the municipal planning grant for the work for the new town center, unfortunately. It sounds like there were only half the projects, it essentially in the state could be funded. In Chittenden County, they could only fund 2 out of 10. So we were not one. But the state's designation program is also in flux right now as well. The legislature is likely going to be retooling it. So the requirements for a new town center designation might be very different. That might not be a new I'm thinking there's not. They're going to have different buckets. So you have like a main designation. It doesn't really have a name like it does now, and then you have designations that sort of radiate out from. So in a way, maybe it's good that we didn't get funding because we're just not sure where that. But possibly village center designation, something we could think about on the earlier side if that's not changing. That is a quicker process. I did that when I was in Arco. Just the requirements for that are small, relatively. If things don't change, we could jump right into that summer. So that would be for the Essex Center, the historic Essex Center area. And I believe in the ETC next plan, that was a recommendation. Center designation. And so then the last thing on the list here is development review. That'll just continue to happen on your first meeting of every month.
With consents thrown on the second meeting.
Sometimes, yep. In both spots, probably. Yep.
Good. Questions from anyone for Catherine? Awesome. Okay. It's going to be a busy year.
Already the end of January.
I know.
It's crazy.
But, hey, that's what we're here for. And just think, we can sit here and smile and know the staff's working all the time. Actually, they are working all the time. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from November 9th and November 16th. We're going to do them separately because I don't remember them at this stage. I'm going to bring them up. So I'd like a motion for the minutes of November 9th from 2023.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Oh, I can't.
Yep, you're
Sorry.
All right, I move we approve the minutes of November 9th, 2023.
I'll second that.
moved by Shu, seconded by John. Does anyone want to offer any comments to the minutes as presented? Okay, those don't count.
Get that?
All those in favor of the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did you want to abstain?
Abstain.
One abstention. So that's 6-1. 6-0-1. 6-0-1.
I wasn't here. I still get.
But did you read the
You-
minutes?
Yes.
You're absolutely able, if you've read the minutes and feel comfortable, you're absolutely able to vote on the minutes as presented.
Okay.
You don't have to, and I'm recognizing, folks, it's absolutely, at this point, it's a choice. I don't generally offer abstentions as an offer during the calling the vote. You can certainly request it. Okay, I'd like a minutes pass 6-0-1. I'd like a motion for the minutes of November 16th, 2023.
Motion.
Don't be
Second.
Just do it.
Move, second.
Yes, I started.
So I have a question.
Not yet. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Since I was here and was a voting member at that time,
But you are not a voting member this evening. We have a full sitting member of the commission on the board.
I know, but this is, so even if somebody wasn't here,
As an alternate, you are not at this point. If there was six other commissioners, you would be a voting member. If there are, we have 7 sitting members of the
no,
commission.
I mean, I don't really care. I just, it just seems like some people weren't at those meetings, so they're approving where I can't.
But the delineation with the alternate, and this is a good conversation to have, but the delineation with the alternate position is their a voting member on any given night if any of the 7 regular commissioners are not present. If the 7 commissioners are present, they are strictly an advisory position, so that regardless of what's in front of us. And if we need to change that, we certainly can address it. But at this point, I don't feel we can make that change on the fly.
I mean, as I said, it's not like a big deal.
It's a
but-
valid point to discuss, but then we're starting to get into who was on this app, who was here for that app. At this point, it's really just who is here for this evening, and that's what we determine who the voting members are. We're going to leave it at that for now.
That's fine.
But I think when we get into discussion about operating procedures, maybe we can fine tune this a little bit, or see if there's a need to. We can discuss if there's a general need for that. Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
No, that's, again, this is new. We have a motion and a second for the minutes of November 16th, 2023. Do we have any commentary or any requests for changes on the minutes of November 16th? Hearing none. All those in favor of the minutes from November 16th, 2023 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
Abstain.
601. Motion minutes pass. Okay. Do we have any other business to address this evening?
No. I think we did mention that the capital budget and plan are before the select board next Monday for the public budget as well. Yep.
Staff, do you need anything from us at this point in the short term?
Nope.
Okay. Then I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Shu, seconded by Trevor. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Better not be anybody. Motion carried.